remembering it like it was yesterday. Every year, tornado season leaves people across Nebraska and the Midwest with severely damaged or destroyed property. And in the wake of Friday's tornadoes across the state, many are left to remember their stories of tornado devastation in years past. One of those people is my grandma, Kathy Rowell, now of Loomis. Her house was severely damaged from the 1975 Omaha tornado. That tornado in 1975 was a violent tornado that hit the metropolitan area. Data from the National Weather Service shows it was the costliest and most powerful tornado out of the 36 that touched down during the two-day outbreak back in May. The one that hit my grandparents' house was an F4.
It was May 6th, 1975, and my grandmother had passed away, and so I was out in Elkhorn. We lived in Omaha, and that morning it was just really muggy out. But we dropped the kids off at the babysitter a block away from where we lived, and I went to Elkhorn to help get things ready for my grandmother's funeral.
Later in the day, she remembers they started forecasting for severe thunderstorms and tornadoes.
And from my parents' house in Elkhorn, we could see the storm heading toward Omaha. And my sister and her husband were here from Texas. And when they said that the tornado hit around the crossroads, and in that area, that's where our house was, we got in their car and drove to Omaha.
During this time, my grandpa Charlie Rowell was on the road trucking.
And he had called about the storm and could see it off in the distance, so he was heading back to work. We drove into Omaha, and when we topped the hill toward where the crossroads is on 72nd and Dodge, all the tree tops were gone. It was like someone had taken a buzzsaw and just cut off the top 2/3 of the trees. So we knew that it had hit close to our home.
At this point, she headed for the babysitter to get her two children, who were 4 and 1 at the time, my Uncle Jeff and my mom. Then they went around the block to head for home, or what was left of it.
And there was a tree blocking the road. When we got to the house, I remember seeing the house and shingles torn off of it, windows blown out, debris everywhere. The neighbor's house had a 2x4 sticking up out of the roof. And when we got there, it's actually the last memory I have of the tornado. Everything just kind of blacked out.
At this point, she paused, remembering that May day back in 1975. The 1975 Omaha tornado destroyed an estimated 4,000 to 5,000 homes, causing upwards of $500 million in damage at the time, according to the National Weather Service.
In the days after the tornado, when we had cleanup, you could only drive down the streets that were a direct route to your house. And you had to have ID to get down that street. So I rode with my sister with my ID, and my husband could drive with his ID. They had National Guard men posted at every corner of every block in our area, and so I'm assuming that was how it was all across Omaha. One of the houses at 72nd Street at the top of our road, our street, was lifted and set onto 72nd Street. We were kind of down in a hollow, so we didn't get quite as much damage as the ones toward the top of the hill. The next day, we had my grandmother's funeral, and we had to drive through several of the areas that were devastated by the tornado. Our family, our kids were fine, although our son had some night terrors following the tornado. But it's an experience that I think you would never forget. The sky after a tornado was this greenish, weird color, and the air feels funny, I suppose, from the electricity in the air. That tornado stayed on the ground for a long time and took out a lot of homes and businesses.
And ever since then, she's reminded of that day whenever she hears the emergency alert tones air over the radio or watches tornado coverage on the news.
The Omaha tornado was never far from my mind when tornado season hits. Like I said, our son Jeff had night terrors, and so anytime a whistle blew, he was gone. He was under something. He was under the bed. He was under the table, anywhere he could get. He remembers seeing dresser drawers flying through the air. The babysitter had put the kids in the bathtub. Her house was hit, but none of the kids were hurt. But he could see things flying through the air, and it took him several years to get over that. It was an experience that I never want to relive. I just thank God that our family was okay and that we made it through it.
Next year, May of 2025, will mark the 50th anniversary of the 1975 Omaha tornado. The National Weather Service reported 3 deaths and about 300 injuries due to the storm. A big thanks to my grandma, Kathy Rowell, now of Loomis, Nebraska, for reliving her experience. I'm Alex Makovica for the Rural Radio Network.